Welcome to Easy Math TV. This is a continuation of our statistics lab series in R. These are the labs that we do in the programming language called R. And this particular lab is going to be, we're going to construct a confidence interval to try to predict or try to estimate a population mean. Okay, so if we look in our project files, all the folders up until now, we've had, I believe it's 5 labs, and this is the 6th in the lab series because we're nearing the end. There's 8 altogether. This lab is on confidence intervals, and then there'll be actually, this is, I guess this is lab 5 because there'll be one for inference for categorical data, one for inference for numerical data, and then there's one on simple linear regression. So we've got several labs coming here. So let's look at our confidence intervals folder. I've placed just the file that just has the R code in it again. That's basically this file here that I've opened. But again, if you want to just read the lab through before you do it, I would suggest that you do that so you can view it in a web browser. And this is the description of the lab. So I highly recommend that you just read through this, read it over before you even try to do anything, and then come back to this. Okay, it's not very long. This is a pretty short lab, so we should be able to get through it pretty quickly. And that's pretty much it. There's a folder here that says more. If you actually open that, this is the complete data of our Ames, Iowa housing data. So we're going to be revisiting that today. And you can actually open it in a spreadsheet. If you want to download this document that says ameshousing.xls, it is an Excel spreadsheet, and you can actually look at the data in Excel, and it's a little easier to get an overview of it in there. So you can certainly do that on your own if you're interested in looking at housing data. So for today's lab, there's just going to be a few things that we're going to need to do. One is to get our data again. So we're going to need to download the file and then load it into our environment. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste those 2 lines of code into the console down here. Download.file, and this is our ames.rdata file, and then load it. You'll see it appear up here in the upper right in the environment. So I just hit enter. So you see this red text here, and it kind of just makes you think, oh, there was an error or something. No, that's just telling you what it did. So it was successfully loaded up here into our environment. You can see there's even a circle in front of the word Ames. There's a blue circle with a triangle that allows you to expand and see what all the variables are. So that should look very familiar to everybody. So the first thing we're going to do, we're not going to be doing sampling from here like we did before. We're just going to take one sample. So we're going to name the Ames $ gross living area. We're going to give that a name. We're going to call that our population. And then we're going to take a sample from that population. So that's these 2 lines of code here, is just renaming those 2, or giving a name to those 2 variables. One of them is the population, the other one is the sample. And they appear up here in our environment. So the population is 2,930 values. And our sample contains 60 of them. And, just to kind of give you an idea whether these are independent, is a sample of size 60 an independent sample. So if I go over and if I pull up a calculator here, I want to see what portion our sample of size 60 divided by 2,930. and then just multiply that by 100 to get a percent. So as long as our sample size is less than 5% of the population, it's considered to be an independent random sample. So we can see here that it is just around 2%. And as long as it's 2%, each value that appears in our data is considered to be an independent observation. All right. So we've talked about that before, how when you're sampling from a population, in order for the results to be considered to be independent, the sample size has to be smaller than 5% of your overall population. Or you have to do, because if it isn't, then you end up having to do sampling with replacement. So there is a way to do that in R, but we're not going to go over that today. Okay, so we have our sample of size 60 here. You can see it here. It's called SAMP. So the next thing we're going to do here in R, and there is more that's described in the document, but I'm going to let you read that on your own. This walkthrough is really just to show you what R code we're doing. We're going to calculate the sample mean. We're going to show a histogram. And then we're going to show a QQ plot, like the quantile plot. So these 4 lines of code will do that. It'll calculate the sample mean, it'll give us a histogram, and it'll do a quantile plot. And you can ask yourself why that would be important, from our data. So I'm going to go over here. Before I hit enter on that, I want to look at the plot window to see what that actually looks like. And hit enter. So there's our quantile plot. You can see, I mean, it kind of, this does sometimes happen with samples where the values at the two ends are not great. They're kind of a certain distance from the line here. But you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what is acceptable? What's an acceptable distance from the line? And our histogram does appear to be slightly skewed. But if we are randomly certain, or if we are kind of certain that the sample comes from a randomly distributed population, then we don't have to worry too much about all that skewness. And we can see what the sample mean is up at the top here. The sample mean was calculated to be 1,620.71666. Okay. So that's that. And our sample is a bit skewed. So we may have to worry a little bit, but we'll see. So that's our sample. And then at that point, you can answer exercises 1 and 2 once you have those calculations made. And then keep reading in your assignment. And here's the R code right here, this combination of stuff. So everything that you see here, SE is standard error, and then lower is the lower boundary of our confidence interval. Upper is the upper boundary of our confidence interval, and then we're going to print it, okay? So that's it. Those are those 5 lines of code. Do the calculations and then print. So at the bottom of our console here, we see the 95% confidence interval of the true mean is, and it says it's going to be between 1491.031 and 1750.402. So that is your confidence interval. That's what you would report. In exercise 6, it asks you to report your data and combine it with the rest of the class's confidence intervals. So these are 2 numbers that I will be asking you to provide me, and then I'm going to show you. We're going to do something in class that will put everyone's confidence intervals into one set of data, and we're going to take a look at them and see what it tells us. But we're almost done, because the last thing that we need to do is just calculate the mean of the population itself. And I'm not even storing that in, I'm not giving it a name. I'm just calculating it. So mean parenthesis population. I copied that and I'm going to paste it into the console at the bottom. And there's our population mean. So you're going to be asked a bunch of questions about your confidence interval and about how well it satisfied the conditions for conducting a confidence interval, and then did you in fact successfully did your interval successfully contain the true population mean? So basically, there's those last group of exercises you'll need to answer them yourself. And then that's it. There's no additional data you're going to be asked to look at, just this data on the gross living area of homes in Ames, Iowa. So this should be a short lab for you, but just make sure that you include your plots in your final submission and all of your R code, and make sure that you've answered all 6 exercises. Okay? So like, subscribe, comment down below if these videos are useful for you, and I'll see you in the next video.